Hello and welcome to another standard gameplay video on the official MTG Arena channel. Today we're taking a look at a white, blue and green or Bant colored artifact deck that's centered around Kayla's Reconstruction. The sorcery for X and triple white lets us take a look at the top 7 cards of our library, put up to X artifact and or creature cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. So if we can cast a large Kayla's Reconstruction, hopefully at least for X equals 3, we can often find at least 3 creatures or artifacts to put on the battlefield, because as you can see, our entire deck consists of cheap creatures and artifacts we can hit with Reconstruction. We can quickly pull ahead since we've got a ton of great artifact synergies, cards that get better as artifacts enter the battlefield, and most of the cards in this deck are either artifacts or generate an artifact in some way to synergize with the rest of our deck. Starting with Skrelv, a 1-mana legendary artifact creature, so it does enable our various artifact synergies, can also be used to save one of our key creatures from opposing spot removal by giving hexproof from an opposing removal spell in response, can also help attack past opposing blockers if the opponent only has creatures of a certain color back on defense. Then at 2 mana we've got Galagreators. This is another key card in the deck, a 1-1 saying whenever another creature enters we can either put a +1 counter on the Greeters, create a tapped treasure token, or gain 2 life, and the treasure token is what we're usually most interested in, as the treasure can then enable other artifact synergies, and of course giving us an early mana boost can be very helpful in setting up a large Kayla's Reconstruction. Then we also have 2 copies of the Steelseeker, a 1-2, saying whenever an artifact enters, we get to take a look at the top card of our library. If it's a land, we can put it into our hand after revealing it, otherwise we can decide to put it into our graveyard, so that the Steelseeker can provide a lot of card advantage by hitting additional land drops, which is also necessary if we want to cast a large Reconstruction, and if we find a card we're not interested in, we can always put it in the graveyard, so it gives us a lot of card selection there as well. Then the Dissident is a 2-mana 1-1 saying whenever an artifact enters, we can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature we control, so that can start growing our team and eventually take over the board. And then we've got the full set of Reckoner Bankbuster as a nice card draw engine, can play it for 2 mana, can potentially crew it to attack on turn 3 right away, and then as the game goes on we can pay 2 mana to draw a card, eventually making a pilot and a treasure token, and by making a treasure token we can once again enable our various artifact synergies, so that can also come in handy. Then at 3 mana our main interaction comes in the form of Annex Sentry, a 1/4 artifact creature, so once again fits perfectly into the deck, can exile an artifact or creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or less until the sentry leaves the battlefield. Then we've got 2 copies of the Briarbridge Tracker, a 2/3 with Vigilance, but it gets +2/+0 for as long as we control a token, and when it enters we also get to investigate, meaning we make a clue token, which can be sacrificed for 2 mana to draw a card. The clue token itself also an artifact, to enable our various artifact synergies once again, and then we also have other tokens between treasures and the tokens from Malcator to keep the tracker up to 4 power. And then a Jewel Thief, a 3/3 with Vigilance and Trample, makes a treasure token when it enters. This one is untapped, unlike the one from our Galagreators. So once again, the Jewel Thief also very helpful in ramping into a large Reconstruction. And then Malcator is a 1/1 legendary creature that is joined by a 3/3 artifact golem token, and at the beginning of our end step, if 3 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under our control this turn, we get to generate an additional golem token. So if we manage to hit several creatures or artifacts with our Kayla's Reconstruction, that can certainly happen, where we make an additional golem token end of turn. And then we've got a 1-off Sword of Forge and Frontier, giving protection from red and from green in addition to +2/+2 to the equipped creature, and when it hits the opponent we get to exile the top 2 cards, play those until end of turn, and play an additional land as well, so that can be a nice source of card advantage, and of course will shine against opposing red and green decks. And then topping off our curve, the full set of Kayla's Reconstruction. Then the mana base also offers a bit of utility, with Eiganjo potentially dealing 4 to an attacking or blocking creature, Soaring City as a bounce effect, and Boseiju can blow up artifacts or enchantments or even lands from the opponent. And then we've got our Headquarters for mana fixing, can also cycle it in the late game, although we've got a ton of mana sinks between Bankbuster, we've got our sword, we've got clue tokens we can sacrifice, so usually we're still playing Headquarters even in the late game, since that can help set up another big Reconstruction later. Then there's a new Razorverge Thicket as a nice fast land, farmland and Deserted Beach, good to come into play untapped later in the game. We've got a Darkar Wastes and Yavimaya Coast as a couple pain lands. And then last but not least, 1 copy of Mirex, which is actually quite synergistic in our deck. In the late game we can pay 3 mana, tap it to make a 1/1 Might token, which not only enables Galagreators, but because the Might is also an artifact, it will also enable Steelseeker, Dissident, and potentially help make an extra Golem token end of turn with Malcator. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's definitely on the slow side, but I think it's keepable. Bankbuster into Jewel Thief, can hit for 4, and then we're making a treasure for Reconstruction. So play Farmland, since we typically want green early for our various 2-drops. Up against red aggro. So we've got our work cut out for us. Another Reconstruction is a bit much here. Might have to cast one for x equals 1, although prefer to cast it for at least 2. So if we can keep hitting our land drops, that would be lovely. Felden, take 3. And time for Jewel Thief, and now we're definitely going to hang back with the Bankbuster and Jewel Thief. If they kill Thief, we can still crew Bankbuster. And then if we block Felden, our opponent gets to dig 4 cards deep, but that may still be worth it. Another Phoenix Chick. And opponent's attacking. Alright. If they finish off our Bankbuster with 2 damage, that's fine by me. And a Thundering Raichu might be next. So we know what to expect next turn. And looks like they also had a Strangle to finish off our 4-4. Sentry cannot exile the Raichu, also won't be able to block if it turns into a 4-4. So I think it's time for Reconstruction, x equals 2, and hope for the best. Okay, we've got some goodies. Sword, pretty good in the mono-red matchup. And then Jewel Thief to make a treasure right away, present a 3-3. That looks good. And then hopefully they cannot kill Jewel Thief, forced to play Raichu, and then we're going to be pretty low, but Sword gives us a chance of maybe outracing the red deck. So, opponent putting the counter on Chick. Think we still take all the damage, and then next turn Sentry exiles Phoenix Chick in addition to equipping Jewel Thief. So let's start there. Attack. Yotian Dissident. Okay, so probably like going Sentry plus Skrelv here. And then now we can block Raichu. And we've got another Reconstruction for 2 coming up at the very least. But we could be dead to a bunch of burn spells. Raichu can still essentially deal 2 damage on the way out by putting a counter on Phoenix Chick. Opponent playing out Crucible implies that they might have an adversary in hand. And yeah, there it is, Bloodthirsty Adversary. Can get back a Strangle. Killing Skrelv, perhaps. Damaging the Sentry. So they're gonna attack all out, and I can soak up some damage with a Sentry, essentially. Yeah, I think it's worth it. Opponent gets Phoenix Chick back, but can't afford to take a lethal, so it's not much of a choice. Okay, step 1, attack with Jewel Thief. And then hope for the best. Skrelv could also attack. Doesn't make a difference. It's not like I'm gonna pay 2 life to activate it. So at that point I may as well attack with it, in case the damage ends up mattering. Okay, Boseiju does not deal with any of the opponent's stuff, but I can play it to cast a bigger Reconstruction. So x equals 3. And yeah, better hit something good here. Hit a Gallagreators, which can gain life, Steelseeker, and then Bankbuster. Is that gonna be enough? Well, gain 2 certainly helps. Reveal a land, which I can still play, although at this point I may as well play a tap land. And then, yeah, we've got 3 blockers on the ground, so that's fine. but I'm still dead to burn spell. Another Raichu will do it too. Otherwise we're potentially threatening a lethal next turn, or at the very least a large reconstruction. Okay, Feldon should still be okay. And a Swiss Spear. So, if I'm blocking Feldon, I don't want to deal too much damage to it, since then they can dig deeper for a burn spell. So I guess that means just chumping it with like a Steelseeker here. Opponent's got 2 blockers back. And I can give the Bankbuster Pro Red if I manage to crew it and activate Skrelv. So that should be feasible. Alright, just give them 1 extra card to look at. And hopefully it's not a burn spell. Thundering Raichu, that's fine. Okay, take or draw. And then, as long as I Reconstruction and hit at least 1 other creature, Greeters picks up a counter, we crew Bankbuster, activate Skrelv, and then attack for 9. So Reconstruction for 3 should suffice. Although, with Mirex in hand I could make it 4. Don't think it matters. Okay, that's perfect. Plenty of triggers. Greeters can get all 3 modes. And we can clear one of the opponent's blockers for what it's worth. Get a bunch more triggers. Okay, and then accrue Bankbuster. Activate Skrelv. Naming red. And that should be a lethal attack. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Hand seems fine. Turn to either Bankbuster or Steelseeker. Leaning Steelseeker. Now, Gala Greeters could be even better. I guess if we go Gala Greeters, next turn I could play Steelseeker. And then make a treasure, which also triggers Steelseeker. Since they may not present a target for Sentry. That's unfortunate. I regret my decision. Life of Toshiro killing Greeters. So now do we play Steelseeker? I guess so. And then Bankbuster, hope to hit a lands, play Dissident. Or if we draw lands, Dissident first. Trespasser exiles Greeters. Okay, that's a decent draw, I guess. And we found a land. Okay. Got a blocker for Trespasser. And then next turn might be time to run out a Sentry. Another Life of Toshiro. Can go to town on the Purity Overseer. So I'm only going to play Dissident if I can put a +1 counter on it right away. And a Bankbuster. Reconstruction. It's probably going to have to wait until we hit a few more land drops. So now I could play my own Bankbuster as opposed to Sentry. Hope to hit a land with Steelseeker, but we can still draw with it as well. Sword. Not the best in this matchup. So I'm gonna bin it. And then do I draw now with the Bankbuster, or do I keep it back to crew? I think I just draw now since I want to hit my land drops for Reconstruction. Which we did not. Okay, pass it back. Opponent pumping the Trespasser. So that represents 6 damage once they exile my creature. That does add up. So if we can't find more lands for Reconstruction, we're gonna fall behind. For now we'll take 5. And a Shakedown Heavy, okay. That one is still somewhat manageable. Can exile it with Sentry and then hope to hit a land with a Steelseeker so we can still draw with the Bankbuster as well. Opponent can crew, that's fine. And there's our land. Does enter tapped, but I'll take it. Okay, so next turn we can potentially Reconstruction for X equals 2. 3 is kind of the sweet spot, but with another one in hand, X equals 2 might be good enough. So if we can stall out the game a little bit and then set up double Reconstruction, we could pull ahead. So we're happy with the status quo. Opponent moves to attackers and does not attack, that's perfect. Switches to Knight. And now I'm also potentially in favor of Dissident plus Briarbridge Tracker, which will trigger Steelseeker and Dissident all at once. And gives us another chance of hitting a land with a Steelseeker. And then the more of these artifact synergy creatures we get in play, the better Reconstruction also gets. And then Dissident probably puts a +1 counter on itself to play around a future memory. Okay, perfect. So next turn we can Reconstruction for X equals 3. It's going to be switched back to daytime as well here. Opponent can draw. Could see some instant speed removal end of turn, maybe taking out Tracker. Go for the throats. May not have had a ton of targets so far, since it doesn't take out our artifacts. And yep, go for the throats, Tracker. Well, that's fine for now. They did not have any great attacks last turn, so that shouldn't have changed. The main concern here is something like a Phyrexian Obliterator or Shieldred, since we can't exile those with Sentry. Okay, opponent crewing the Bankbuster. And I'm okay trading for my Bankbuster potentially, since we have another one in hand. And we're gonna generate a ton more card advantage going forward. Trade happens. And I go for the throat, takes out Dissident. Fair enough. What's next? Another Trespasser. Okay. Well, Reconstruction for 3 better be good. There's another one, so glad to draw it instead of reveal it off the top, I guess. Okay. We hit Tracker, Thief, and Greeters. We can make Treasure. Probably want a +1 counter as well, so we don't die to a -1/-1. And reveal a couple of lands, why not? And then Dissident on top, I'm probably happy to keep. Play tap lands and pass it back. Okay, that was a good turn, and we've got 2 more Reconstructions coming up. Boseiju could also blow up a memory, but probably happy to just play it as a land. We've got 2 clue tokens we can sacrifice, although it's going to be a while before that happens. Might have to start applying a bit of pressure too now, since we might end up dying to a Shieldred otherwise. Invoke Despair. Okay. Think Steelseeker may have provided enough value, although we could also get rid of, let's say, a Jewel Thief here. Hang on to Steelseeker for a little bit longer. So if they can cast a couple more of those, we're dead too, but Greeters can start gaining life. So that's helpful. Trespassers attacking, happy to trade for them. So we're at 6. Okay. So next turn could play Dissidents into another Kayla's Reconstruction. And then it would still be a Reconstruction for x equals 3, which should be enough. Trigger Gala Greeters, and then I probably wait on making a treasure, since we're likely to hit more creatures, and then we might hit more Dissidents, which then also synergize with Gala Greeters. So I'll start by gaining 2 life. Also have a couple of treasures, so could cast it for maybe x equals 4 here. Unlikely to reveal 5 cards to it. Alright. Double Sentry and Dissidence, so it's a lot of triggers coming up. Now we can make Treasure and get a +1 counter, exile double memory, make sure we don't exile the same one, and get a ton of +1 counters as well, so we can start beating down. Just have to be careful about removal on Annex Sentry. Since that could present a Shakedown Heavy out of nowhere. So we get a bunch more +1 counters. I guess if I put a +1 counter on Sentry, I force him to use the cut down right now. So we're not in for any surprises. And yeah, there's a cut down. Well, can still trade for Shakedown Heavy, I suppose. Another Dissident I'll keep. And then, do we want to attack? Don't really want to trade for Shakedown Heavy. So I'm just gonna pass. And then next turn Dissident into another Reconstruction, or we can Sentry Exile Heavy, or do it all. I have a couple treasures to spare. At 8 life, we're not dead to another Invoke Despair at least. And we're starting to build up a pretty big board. Archfiend, that's a problem. That's a big flyer. Might have to just trade for it after all. Although now Archfiend also drains us in the process. So just need to hit multiple Gala Greeters to gain enough life to survive. Could also let the opponent draw, but then Shakedown Heavy stays on defense. So that's not very helpful. So, regretting not putting an extra counter on the Steelseeker now. Just didn't want to put all my eggs into one basket. Okay. Steelseeker down. And we're at 6. Alright, I think I'm still in favor of Dissidents into Reconstruction. And how much do we reconstruct for? Once again, start by gaining life. Reconstruct for 4, leaves 2 mana to maybe play Bankbuster afterwards. Okay, that's the full hit. So now we can make Treasure, get a +1 counter, and start spreading out those +1 counters. So I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3 artifacts entering the battlefield. Bankbuster makes it 4, so that's 12 +1 counters. Not gonna be enough to present lethal. But, yeah, can at least make some big creatures. So Greeters gets 2 counters. And then maybe put them on Sentry. 5 each. Gala Greeters on top, I'll happily take. Okay, so if I draw with my Clue token, I can still play Greeters, but I wouldn't be able to trigger it right now. So at that point I'm better off playing a Bankbuster and adding more counters everywhere. So 3 more counters. I guess we'll spread them out here. Alright, attack. And hope we're not dead next turn. This is an attack for 22, no way I can present lethal here. So we're dead to any removal. We're dead to another Invoke Despair. Shieldred also kills me. So it's not looking great here, but did put our opponent to 5. And our board is quite impressive. If only we had hit another Gala Greeters here to gain 2. Alright, are we dead? Looks like it. We're at 2. And a Corrupt for 8. Alright, GG's. At least they finished us off in style. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, and our hand seems fine. Turn to Gala Greeters into either Sentry or Jewel Thief. Can probably wait on the sword until we get to equip it right away. And then Mirex, a nice late game mana sink to potentially enable Gala Greeters. Okay, up against a red aggro deck. So Greeters unlikely to survive for long. Could play a Bankbuster. And then next turn Jewel Thief can crew Bankbuster if they try and take it out. Although Gala Greeters kind of forces the issue on a removal spell. Although if we can wait until Gala Greeters makes a treasure right away, that might play out a little bit better. And with a treasure from Jewel Thief, that's not unlikely to happen. Okay, another Swiss Spear. And what's next? Phoenix Chick, take 3. So our opponent's off to a nice start. And then next turn we can Greeters plus Sentry. Then we'll see if we want to make a treasure or gain some life. Another Phoenix Chick. At least the protection from red is going to be relevant in the matchup. Just a Phoenix Chick attacking. So not running into the Bankbuster quite yet. Okay, opponent had to think about it, so we'll take 2. Possible they have a Lightning Strike in hand, but they're gonna wait to kill Jewel Thief in my turn so they can attack past Bankbuster. We'll see here. Otherwise I can take the opportunity to equip Sword, which could also be quite useful. Alright, we get to untap. So, what are our options? Greeters plus Sentry versus Sword, try and equip, but it's pretty bad if they have a Lightning Strike or double play with Fire in hand. So I think we Greeters plus Sentry here. And then I don't have to make a treasure, but we'll see if they kill Greeters in response with a Lightning Strike. So yeah, they could have tried to take out a Jewel Thief last turn, but didn't. Now, could go for Phoenix Chick, which we're not going to be able to block for a while. And then not going to attack with the Jewel Thief into double Swiss Spear, since we needed to crew Bankbuster. And then hopefully put a sword on the Jewel Thief next turn. Gatekeeper, okay. Probably goes for a creature here. So casting creatures is going to cost us some life. But just take 1 for now. Another Sentry could exile the Gatekeeper, but I think I'm more interested in getting a sword online. There doesn't seem to be a response. So equip Jewel Thief and start beating down for 5. Opponent can block. So this is a 4-turn clock, and we get to generate some card advantage in the meantime. Sadly, no land to play out here. Another Phoenix Chick, gonna cost the opponent 2 life. And our opponent explodes, yeah, sword to the rescue. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got a Keeper. Hopefully our Gala Greeters can stick around, and then by making treasures we also trigger Dissident. It's not gonna be great in every matchup, but against another creature deck without too much removal, that could be quite strong. Turn 1 Swamp. Do we lead with Gala Greeters? Opponent with a Bankbuster, so yeah, still gonna give Gala Greeters a shot. Unlikely to survive, but if it does, next turn go for Dissidents, make a treasure. Okay, so it is a Rakdos deck, maybe turn 3 Fable incoming. Nope, go for the Throat, kills Greeters. Okay, now I'm liking Steelseeker as an option, although it would be better if we can make an artifact right away, although Greeters is the only way to really do that. So Greeters is our most valuable creature, so maybe I just bait with a Dissident this turn, and then next turn I can go Greeters into Steelseeker, make a treasure. And then we gotta dig towards Kayla's Reconstruction. Annex Sentry could still be useful at exiling a Bankbuster before they draw. Alright, so it may be a Grixis deck after all. Possible they have some blue cards in hand that they cannot cast yet. Okay, Bankbuster is not bad either. It's definitely a safer investment than Gala Greeters, since they could kill Greeters in response. So now I might be in favor of Steelseeker into Bankbuster and then wait on Greeters for one more turn. Does seem like they have some insta-speed interaction available. And then next turn we could still Greeters plus Dissidents. And we'll see which creature they decide to take out in response. Abrade the Dissident. They could have also destroyed the Bankbuster itself. And Skrelv seems good enough, since I'll be able to play it alongside my other creatures and trigger both Greeters, Dissident and Steelseeker. So it should provide ample value. So their opponent's got access to all their colors. Could see an Invoke Despair here. Yep. Okay, Steelseeker down. But stick to the plan. Greeters into Dissidents. Make a treasure. And then probably go for a +1 counter here. Counter on Dissident itself. And then Bankbuster can smash for 4. So that was a decent turn to get back on the board. Skrelv can protect our creatures going forwards once we get to untap. And then we've got Bankbuster as a card draw engine. Still hoping to top deck a Kayla's Reconstruction. Abrade kills Dissident while they still can. Leaving our Bankbuster. And a Harvester. Okay. So that can take out Skrelv next turn. Opponent can also attack with a Bankbuster or accrue it on defense. Found another one. Could play Bankbuster and draw with a Summoning Sick one. Although am I really planning to attack into the opponents? I guess trading Bankbusters isn't bad when we've got a backup. So maybe I shouldn't even show the new one. Makes it more likely that they trade, and if they take 4 I'm pretty happy. Skrelv is not going to help against Harvester, unless we want to protect Greeters, which I guess is also reasonable. Although then I wouldn't be able to crew Bankbuster here. So yeah, I think we just crew, attack for 4, see what they do. And then I can still play Bankbuster and draw. Opponent can crew their Bankbuster and draw on the way out. So that may tempt them into making the trade. Since their opponent got a bit more value out of the exchange. Okay. And then we'll draw main phase in case we pick up something useful. That's certainly something useful, so we can Reconstruction for 3 next turn at the very least. Assuming Harvester kills Greeters. Alright, it's gonna be a go for the Throat instead, and then Harvester could clean up. And now Fable 2. Well, at least our points on empty. Sentry would be perfect for exiling the Shaman token. And our points just on the beatdown plan. Okay, Reconstruction, X equals 3 incoming. And we hit 3 cards, perfect. including Sentry to exile Harvester, and then Greeters could get a +1 counter here. That way I can crew Bankbuster without having to tap Skrelv. Okay, we're in decent shape. Double Bankbuster as card draw engines. We're ahead on board, ahead in the race. But never count out the Grixis deck. Okay, protect the Greeters here. And we'll name black, since that's most likely to be their spot removal. Backup Harvester, that's okay. Mirrex can trigger Gala Greeters, so not actually all that bad. And then I want to draw with the Bankbuster with fewer counters, so we're more likely to get the Pilot token, which could also come in handy. Okay, Ganjo, also somewhat helpful. Got a couple of options. Could play Mirrex and then activate it. Ganjo I can channel for just 2 mana here, since we control a legendary. So then I could still draw with a Bankbuster, but not enough mana to activate Mirrex. Could also just activate Mirrex, which can help crew Bankbuster, and then we can attack alongside Greeters, since I really don't want the Harvester to get out of hand with Reflection. So yeah, let's just activate Mirrex. And then could go for a +1 counter to kinda force a trade to an extent. And then we can crew like so. And attack for 7. And hope they trade. Okay. So now we don't have to worry about Reflection comping a Harvester if they can stay alive for an extra turn. And then the Pilot from Bankbuster can crew the other Bankbuster. Can maybe put Skrelv's ability to use to attack past the Reflection, as our opponent discards a Bankbuster. So they weren't happy drawing a card for 4 mana, since they couldn't cast something like Invoke Despair afterwards. Although not sure if Invoke's going to be enough. Opponent just plays a land. Picked up a Dissident. So let's say we play Dissident, activate Bankbuster, make a treasure, trigger Dissident in the process. Don't want to tap Mirrex, since we can still activate it here. Okay, Malcator, also great. So, counter on Sentry. And now we have an Embarrassment of Riches. Malcator gets a counter and crews Bankbuster all by itself. And then counter on token. Crew Bankbuster. And attack. And yeah, opponent should be dead here. Awesome. So yeah, our synergy started to flourish here near the end of the game, after some pretty good early disruption from the Grixis deck. And just takes one good Kayla's Reconstruction to pull us ahead. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. So yeah, we got to see our Bant Artifacts deck in action. And while the deck may not be the most competitive standard deck out there, Kayla's Reconstruction as an individual card has impressed me every time I've played it in standard so far, so be on the lookout for more cheap, powerful creatures that you can hit with it, artifacts as well of course. So if we ever get something like a Glass Casket type effect, a removal spell that also happens to be an artifact, Portable Hole another example, if we get anything similar in future expansions, the deck will pick up another great tool, since right now it's a bit light on interaction, so finding another one of those artifacts that's also a removal spell would be great. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.